The streets of the centre of Cape Town reverberated to the guttural scream of a Formula One engine recently when the Red Bull racing circuit came to town. Former Formula One driver Scotsman David Coulthard was the driver behind the wheel of the Red Bull racing car as it did laps around a specially demarcated street track that included a section of the historic Grand Parade between Christian Barnard and Adderley Streets. Coulthard, who won 13 races in a Formula One career spanning 14 years, was thrilled to be part of the spectacle.
Well, it's great, and for the Red Bull local market to have been able to negotiate and collaborate with the local authorities to get the permission, for me it's really a privilege to have the opportunity to put a Formula One car right in the heart of Cape Town, to show a little bit what Formula One is and what it sounds like. There'll be hardcore fans of the sport who are already familiar, but what I always get excited about is the young boys and girls that have never heard Formula One before, maybe never had the chance or desire to watch it, but suddenly the noise will be ringing out around the streets, so it won't just be the people who are physically there, but the local area will be able to be aware that something new and exciting, I think, is happening in Cape Town.
The car was a replica of the one being driven in the current Formula One season by Red Bull racing drivers Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly, and fans were able to get an up-close and personal view of the car and Coulthard, who was under no illusions as to why the car had made the long trip to the southern tip of the African continent, but the question was, would it be pushed to the limit?
Well, we brought it all this way, so we may as well use it. So we're definitely going to do a few runs and try and show a little bit the speed of the car, a little bit the energy, and the great thing about these events, Red Bull as a company are incredibly open, and they understand about consumers. We don't want them not being able to come and look and see and understand exactly what Formula One is and what the car is. So there's a real great chance for people to see the car relatively close, certainly closer than they would at a normal Grand Prix event. And just the opportunity to engage, to see, for me, the city up close, to come and talk with people like yourself and the radio stations that are here, and it's a life education, so it's really a cool event to be part of.
While the event was a first for Cape Town and for Coulthard in his capacity as a Formula One and Red Bull Racing ambassador, this was not the Scotsman's first visit to Cape Town.
Well, today it's been more interviews promoting the event, but I've been here on vacation with my wife, and we've done the full tourist experience. We've done the open-top bus, which I've never wanted to do anywhere else in the world. I've always looked at it and thought, oh, that must be terrible. But here I wanted to do it, and we loved it, and we've been up the mountain and been to some of the fantastic restaurants around, and little bars. And I always love when you can be somewhere where the locals are. I don't want to just be in the tourist hotel, so that for me is where you really get to understand what the country is, because no matter how impressive a country is, it's the people that make the country talk, and of course around the world there's good and bad, but you're always trying to find those good experiences.
Coulthard raced Formula One from 1994 to 2008, winning 13 of his 246 starts for 3 different teams: Williams F1, McLaren and Red Bull Racing. The last of his wins came at the Australian Grand Prix in 2003. He was on the podium 13 times. The last of his races was the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix, where he failed to finish after a collision in the first corner. So, does David Coulthard miss the buzz of racing Formula One?
I don't miss competing. I was very lucky in my racing career, from 11 years old in karting through to retiring in my late 30s from Formula One. I'm still around the sport. I still love to watch and see the next generation coming up of really talented racers. So there's a time for everything. And I had my time, and now it's the next generation, and I get to enjoy other parts of this travelling circus.
The current Formula One season is being dominated by Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas of the Mercedes team, with Ferrari not far behind and Red Bull the next best. At the end of the 2018 season, Red Bull switched engine suppliers from Renault to Honda, and Coulthard believes the change has made a big difference to the car's performance this year.
Well, I think that if you look at Red Bull Racing right now in Formula One, they have a new relationship with Honda. So I actually think they've had an incredible start to this year to get the car challenging and pushing Mercedes hard in Monte Carlo at the last race. You know, Max finished second, could have so easily have won that race, but he's had other podiums. So the new partnership is on track. Of course, Red Bull, as a four-time World Championship winning team, want to win. But you're up against Mercedes, you're up against Ferrari, you're up against big manufacturers who've been in the sport for many, many years. So I don't think there's any shame where they are right now. In Max and Pierre, they have two great drivers. Max is more established within the team and at the moment is having a better run. But you know, we need to give Pierre some time to really get on top of that side of things. And I'm sure by the middle of the year, they're both going to be pushing hard for podiums.
Having driven the best Formula One cars and a number of sports cars over the years, including a Jaguar at the Le Mans 24-hour, Coulthard is pretty definite about his preference of a high-performance sports car.
I'm a Mercedes guy. I know, as I sit here with my Red Bull shirt with a Aston Martin badge and a Honda badge and what have you, but Mercedes for me, the Gullwing Mercedes from the 50s is for me a sort of iconic sports car.
Like many of his fellow racing drivers, Coulthard has traded the highlands and misty weather of Scotland for the balmy Mediterranean climate and relaxed environment of Monte Carlo. So what does he have parked in his garage at home?
I have everything from a bicycle, which I drive around Monte Carlo because it's a small place, a little smart car if I'm looking to zip around, or I have a GLC AMG 63, so if I want to sort of get up and go, then that's my sort of performance car.
As a Scottish sporting icon, David Coulthard has a museum in his hometown of Twinholme in Scotland. With close on 40 years in motorsport behind him, what does he treasure most from his time as a driver?
The memories are the most treasured because I have all my cars, I have all the trophies, I have memorabilia from around the world, but actually I don't live with them. They're in a museum in Scotland, but the memories are with me, and this has been a wonderful journey, an education of life, and it's continuing.
Grand Prix racing can seem to be something of an elitist, individual, almost selfish sport, with so much focus on the performance of the driver. However, Coulthard seemed to have gained so much more from his time as a Formula One race driver.
Working with people, working with motivated people, that for me, of course winning a Grand Prix and spraying the champagne is wonderful, but for me it was always about the team and sharing that moment with the team. And when you've just crashed a car and your mechanics are working until sunrise to rebuild it, and you see that commitment and you feel that energy and passion and desire, and they give it back to you, and you go out again and try and deliver a result. That's a shared experience amongst people, which really defines what a team is, and that to me is what I've enjoyed most out of Grand Prix racing.
There are a few tracks in the world that David Coulthard hasn't driven. Victories in Australia, Brazil, Austria, France, and twice each at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone and at Monaco has given him plenty of time to choose a favourite track.
I prefer Monaco. I should say Silverstone as a Brit and as a BRDC member, but I always loved the Street Circuit Challenge.
David Coulthard was third in the Drivers' Championship 4 times between 1995 and 2000, and was runner-up to Michael Schumacher in 2001. So who would be the one driver he'd love to race against?
Well, it would be amazing if you could bring together all the world champions from over the history of the sport and get the chance to race them. But I've been so lucky. I was test driver for Alain Prost, Nigel Mansell, Ayrton Senna, 3 world champions, 3 greats of the period I was watching, and I was able to communicate and share with them as I developed the Williams car. So that was a pretty exciting period as a young driver, and then I obviously raced with Michael and Mika and Lewis and Fernando and guys like that.
A relaxed, congenial gentleman, David Coulthard and the Red Bull Racing Circuit team certainly gave new and old Formula One fans a wonderful treat in Cape Town.